So before I begin, I want to thank the WordWorks and Cafe Muse for helping sponsor this series. And I want to thank every one of you out there for coming in and joining us tonight. So let's get a few things out of the way. First, and most importantly, if you want to purchase the poet's books, click on the green button that you see down there below. This green button leads to links to purchase the poet's books and to donate to our series if you care to. Your participation means a lot to our success, and we at WordWorks and Cafe Muse thank you wholeheartedly. Now, if you'd like to follow all of our WordWorks readings, just click the Follow tab in the upper right. And if you want to ask a question of our poets, please feel free to click on the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen while the reading is going on. And you can read other people's questions, and you can vote on the ones that you like and want to hear the most. So we'll try to get to a few of them if we have time. And here at PVP, we always encourage our audience to ask those questions. And very often they're interesting and enjoyable, and a good way to enjoy the poets and their work. Also remember that you are not on camera, so don't worry about mics and cameras or the room you're in or how you're dressed or any of that. But please make use of the lively chat feature to comment on the performances. And please bear with us if we experience technical glitches. We are all working remotely, and these online readings are, I always say, they're a bit like the early days of live television. Except even then, they didn't have to do it in 3 different cities or from a number of different locations. So I think it's actually maybe more complicated. A couple more things. Please join us on Monday, August 24, 2020, for a night of poetry and translation, which we are rescheduling due to a technical mishap which occurred during our original broadcast there. So come on back in to see that night of translation on August 24. And remember, if you want to come back and enjoy this reading again, just click on the same link that you used to get here. This reading is going to be archived, and you'll also have another shot at buying books as well. And you can sign up for all of the readings that I just mentioned. You can sign up for all of our stuff, the past, the present, and the future, by going to our WordWorks channel. And I just put that in the chat there. So here we go. Just click on that, and you'll be good to see all of our work. Okay, so now let's get down to business here. Don Krieger is a biomedical researcher whose focus is the electrical activity within the brain. He is the author of Discovery and a 2020 Creative Nonfiction Foundation Science as Story Fellow. His work has appeared in Hanging Loose, Neurology, the Raw Art Review, Seneca Review, and the Blue Nib, the Pittsburgh Jewish Chronicle, and so there we go. Without anything further, let's bring Dawn onto the stage here, and let us go on that journey of discovery. Dawn, take it away.
Let's start with a few from Denise Levertov. This is her book, Poems 68 to 72, from the section titled A New Year's Garland for My Students, 69 and 70. Margot, the one who can't say it, says it. The one who can't figure how, pictures what. The song no one can sing sounds quiet, air in air. That's Margot Taft-Stever. She read at Cafe Muse recently with Susanna Case. Arthur. In winter, intricately wrapped, the buds of trees and bushes are firm and small and go unnoticed, though their complexity is as beautiful now as eventual silky leaves in spring. That's Arthur Z. His poetry collection, Sightlines, won the National Book Award last year. Here's another. Dawn. If the body is a house, the house a temple, in that temple is a labyrinth. In that labyrinth's core, a vast room. In the room's remote depths, an altar. Upon the altar, a battle raging, raging, between two angels, one feathered, with spines, with sharp flames, one luminous, the subtle, angel of understanding. And from time to time, a smile flickers on the face of the mean angel and slips shadowy over to the gentle face. Discovery is a collection in 3 sections: America, To Save a Life, Childhood's End. From America, long time coming. The house fires were always in Colored Town. Dad called them less fortunate. We were cold and hungry too, but different. We were meant for college. The missile crisis came. Castro had nukes. Bombers flew over every few minutes. Convoys ran Dixie Highway for weeks, so it was hard crossing to school. We had no basement for shelter. I dug a hole in the yard one time. It filled with seawater. We were drilled in class, marched to the closet to cower. When Nixon got in, I was terrified, thought he might use nukes in Vietnam, burn everything clean. Somebody to Love. Jefferson Airplane, 1968. The night Bobby Kennedy died, we were all wounded. In the sick certainty, nukes in Nixon's hands. Martin Luther King, I hardly knew who he was. And not till Denzel's movie did I know Malcolm X had even lived. But when Gracie Slick burst out of the radio at that Boston crossroads, streets at all angles, big as a football field, no lights, no signs, I just sat there. I feared for Obama and Hillary, so bullish, sex like a target on her chest. Brady and Reagan, it hardly mattered. And now the beasts, Pence and Kushner, lined up next. Tears are running down your breast. Patriot Act 3 times. The Patriot Act was signed into law on October 26, 2001. The United States invaded Iraq on March 20, 2003. The Department of Justice's first priority is to prevent future terrorist attacks. September 11th, 2019. Colin Powell, our best and brightest, sold our self-respect. 20 billion in war work for Cheney's cronies. 300,000 fought, 400,000 of theirs. 5,000 died, and 100,000 innocents. We embrace 9/11's outrage, excuse for freedoms surrendered. We and our tormentors bound as one in fear, delirium, and dogma. We covet our portion of hatred. We, the people, may we forget America the beautiful still cowed by 19 dead felons. From To Save a Life, Saturday night on call. A sheriff guards the operating room. Inside, we fight. Her neck was broken in a brawl. She thrashes and spits as we hold her shoulders and head still, work to realign the bones, constantly checking, dreading the worst, blunt silence, slack body. Hours later, with neck straight, flipped on her belly, moving arms and legs before she sleeps, I step out for a breath. The surgeon is at the scrub sink. She'll just kill someone else. That may be, I say, but we won't have killed her. It's been decades. I still dread and hope for her, and I treasure the stubborn skill of that surgeon. Battle fatigue. The surgeon carves, dissects, sears the bleeding. The anesthetist, numbness, paralysis, stupor. My part, to hear and report. Each limb's electric murmurs, the brain's muffled replies, mixed with the whine of machines, arrogance, fear. We fight for normal life on waking. We trust normal will return for us. They are out there, our charges, 10,000 who woke well, those who did not. I don't recall their faces, just the smell of blood and burning, the urgent charge, uphold life, sick wonder when the lamp goes dark. Why did I have to see that? Standing by. I moved the piano from the basement, had it repaired and tuned. She bought a lovely stool with claw feet. I fixed the seat with a deerskin cover. She never practiced, though, told me Grandma always looked at me so closely after my bath. Grandpa did something to me when I was learning to play. I paid someone to take the piano, then stood by while she struggled to remember. I broke out the concrete where a clogged downspout plunged into the foundation, fitted it with a clean out, formed a cement cover to protect it from the weather. One night she locked me out. I never understood, not that time or the others. I woke in the garage, chilled in the dark, my head buzzing like yellow jackets in the crumbling roof. It warmed me to think of her, our life together. I fetched the clean-out cover and etched our names in its face with a rusted hanger. When she saw it, she said, "It looks like a headstone." Soon after, she had a stroke, then lingered. I knew her wishes and consented, stood by to see they were met. I still feel that I murdered. I still remember when last we spoke. We lay on the couch, kissing. October 30, 2018. 3 of 11 killed at the Tree of Life Synagogue were buried. One of the 3 was husband, to my coworker and friend, unveiling. 11 lives taken at the Tree of Life, miles away, our writing workshop canceled, our chance for defiance, however small, gone. I waited at the funeral with hundreds to pass security, newsboys on the street asking with their cameras, who is afraid? I watched her halting walk to his grave, reluctant like a child. I followed like a child, with a shovel full of earth to cover him. I listened to the learned, seeking meaning, hundreds crowded into the Beth Shalom basement, police in armor at the entrance. When the door shut behind us, I noticed the dampness and a draft on my bare neck. Today was 11 months, hundreds standing witness in the warmth beneath the trees. I still live, so I was there. I will do more. Wherever, whoever is next. That familiar comfort. The river at Port Chicago was pink in the dawn glare. Strangely like that night, they fled for their lives. Biplanes spotlit by burning buildings, kerosene bombs bursting on the roofs, clubs and rifles, white boys and their fathers, beasts hunting little Africa for black runners. Do you know this story? The Tulsa pogrom of 1921, 6,000 black people jailed, no whites, the Greenwood ghetto burned to the ground, no insurance ever paid, no crime ever charged, the dead uncounted. I never knew it till today. I bear that shame, small price for my privilege. From this day, I forswear that familiar comfort, the cowardice of forgetting. From Childhood's End, the title poem for this section, Childhood's End. You'll be a man, my son, if, Rudyard Kipling. Promise me power or eternal life. Give me wealth. Open your legs. I am proof against all of it, thanks to my father, who often recited if, who turned to me as we drove his weekly round to collect $12 from women in cement block houses, doors open, TVs flashing, children playing on the sand floor, or coming to touch my pale skin in wonder. He turned to me, a child of 6, as we rode in his rusted Hillman minks and said, you know, Don, I would never be unfaithful to your mother. This is a special one. It just appeared in Seneca Review. Invisible for Susie. Leftovers went to Rick, the human garbage can. He sat at the foot of the table, Dad at the head, Mom and Susie, Kathy and me. Mom served each of us cold milk, boiled lima beans, burgers tasteless and tough. Dad talked and Mom argued, sometimes Rick too. Dad drilled Kathy and me arithmetic with 3-digit numbers. He quizzed us too when he showed us to his friends. One time I stumbled. After that, he used numbers I knew. Another time I didn't answer. After that, the quizzes stopped. When I took out the garbage, I searched the darkness for snakes, then brushed off the sand and picked the stickers out of my toes. Those same nights, I washed the dishes with bar soap and burning hot water. Mom always washed them again. When Father Knows Best was on, I slipped into the kitchen, made jelly sandwiches for school, and ate anything else I could find. Mom and Dad are gone now, Susie too. I never asked what it was like for her, or Kathy either. Rick says there was enough, though we had no heat, and my first coat came when I lettered in track. Mom wanted cremation to be spread on the sea. When I threw her to the wind, she tasted of tree bark. Rick called me at work about Mom. We all met at Susie's. The preacher talked Jesus and fish oil. Mom was in a plastic bag in his shoebox. When it was over, we couldn't find her. Kathy had taken the ashes. Years later, I showed up at Kathy's door with a crowbar, but walked away and wrote a letter instead. That worked. Kathy gave up the ashes. Susie hired a boat and brought them. She and the captain prayed and shouted the whole trip. I was at work again when Rick called about Dad, this time with no plan. I asked him, please don't dump those ashes down a storm drain. We bought another plot, but not too close to Mom. She despised him longer than any of us could remember. No one showed up but me. The cemetery salesman put the ashes in the hole and closed the cover. I gave him 2 20s and asked, could we say Kaddish? Sure, he said, we have a minyan, and pointed to a funeral in progress. Her freshman year, Susie totaled the Corvair and my Lark too, drunk both times. Her first husband was a hillbilly. The second had been a junkie. Whenever I visited them, he changed the channel to a sermon. One time I picked up a toy car. He shouted, don't touch that, and snatched it out of my hand. It was part of his diorama of the current NASCAR standings. Rick called about Susie's memorial service, delayed a year for her preacher's return from China. Hearing she was gone like that, no goodbye, no chance. Each day I walk through the sports complex from the VA lot to my office, broken concrete, rust-stained ponding. I walk lightly and keep to the shadows, slowing if someone is ahead so she won't fear the man hulking behind her. I love the implacable weight of concrete, the forming, the astringent smell and heat of it as it sets, the dead cold when it's cured. The foundation of our Florida house was a slab ground glass smooth and level before they laid the block walls, set the hand crank casement windows, and roofed it with concrete tiles. That terrazzo floor was perfect for shooting down army men with marbles and for growing up unheard and unseen. My second wife was often startled when I appeared, till I began walking loudly, a choice so difficult that we both knew it for an act of love. The bomb. It cost $5 at the junkyard, a frame, motor, and 4 wheels. Dad added the front end from a Crosley and a welded cage covered with galvanized. Rick and Timmy push-started it the first time. I held the gas pedal down with a stick and drove right into a hibiscus bush. Burdines had an escalator, but it was way downtown. I always stuck out, riding from floor to floor in bare feet. Sears was closer. I could pedal there on Sunday and ride for hours. No one seemed to notice, or maybe they thought I was just playing while Mom shopped. Rick was 14. He drove the bomb to school. The first week he hit a light pole. When he rolled it, Mom stopped answering the phone. It finally ended when he hit a taxi, and it cost some real money. I haven't crashed in since the hibiscus bush, but I've taken more wrong turns. There's a poem titled Discovery, which is the title poem, but this is the real title poem, Our Shared Humanities. Nothing is deadlier, dogma, so beautiful, courage, riskier, faith, seductive, privilege, more profane, indifference, virtuous, war, crueler, God. No greater truth, kindness, nor greater lie, color. Nothing more human, discovery. We're fortunate to have Reuben Jackson and Marianne Slick here to read tonight. I met Reuben at a workshop that Marianne curates on the Germantown Montgomery College campus. I wrote this poem in the workshop that day, 1970. I was in that first lottery, drawn by birthday, 341, no worries. But I thought again, sat for the exam, took the flight physical, waited and hoped. Larry was at Travis. When he heard about it, he called, talked me out of it. I regret not going, but I'm grateful too. So many I knew, gone. I'm so grateful for all of you who are here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Don Krieger. I just the other day heard someone say that the poet's job is someone who does not avert their eyes, and I want to thank you for not averting yours. Powerful reading. Thank you very much. Let's get Reuben up on the screen. Hi, Reuben. Good to see you up there. And yep, there you go. We got some sound now. Yeah, well, you should be good. Okay. Reuben Jackson is archivist with the University of the District of Columbia's Felix E. Grant Jazz Archives. He was host of Vermont Public Radio's Friday Night Jazz from 2012 to 2018, and Curator with the Smithsonian's Duke Ellington collection for 20 years. His poems have appeared in 40 anthologies. His first book is Fingering the Keys, published in 1991, and his most recent book is entitled Scattered Clouds, published in October 2019. So, Reuben, I will get out of your hair here, and I'm so excited to hear some of your jazz-infused poetry. So,
thank you.
So take it away and go for it.
Alrighty. Thank you. Thank you. Good to be with everybody. Hearing the word is keeping my spirit going during this very challenging time. I'm going to read a few music-based pieces tonight from Scattered Clouds. And Don wrote and read a piece addressing events in the year 1970. And this first poem touches upon the same year, which, my goodness, was 50 years ago, as we know. Just quickly, earlier this year, before the world fell on its ass, I was talking with a student at the university who noticed I had a Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies sweatshirt on. And he said, "What? Where'd you get that shirt?" And I told him, I said, this record came out 50 years ago. And it really hit me because I knew it intellectually, but then, there's like knowing things in your head, then it hits you in the heart and you go, what the heck? So this poem has to do with Jimi Hendrix and another friend. This poem was kind of conceived during a weekend in New York with two other DC friends, one of whom recently died of this damn virus. So the poem's dedicated to Nancy Seeger, her partner, but I'm also dedicating it to Beverly Johnson, whom we lost about a month and a half ago. It's called 52 West 8th Street, which was and is the address of Jimi Hendrix's Electric Lady Studios. 52 West 8th Street. We take 6th Avenue to the Village, pause for hot dogs in Washington Square Park, rush past the weekend crowds on pilgrimage. Part of my tour of New York includes pausing at a pot-bellied building beside the 8th Street Playhouse. Nancy snaps a photograph. Jimi Hendrix's studio, I mumble to passing tourists who don't remember seeing this on their list of downtown hotspots, and to Nancy, who notices posters of Jimmy and Mozart in an upstairs window, snapping them just as it begins to rain. By now, I am tripping. I see a man cross McDougal Street who looks like Billy Cox, Jimmy's last bassist. I am weaving like a blue note laced with strychnine. The air smells of patchouli. It is late August 1970. Jimmy emerges from the studio talking with a woman about management and final mixes, which he'll supervise when he returns from England. I ask if he'll pause for a picture. His turquoise belt is beautiful in the sun. Next piece is entitled Jocko. It's for and about the late bassist Jaco Pastorius, but I wanted to read it in part because, well, I wanted to share it with you, but I was talking with a college roommate the other day, and we were talking about 1977, 1978, when we would listen to music and drive around the Vermont countryside, and how young those musicians were, and those who are still around are in their 70s, and you think, like that old song by Simon and Garfunkel, how terribly strange to be 70. But this is for Jaco Pastorius, and back when I didn't have a bald spot in the back of my head. Jaco. Courtney slugging a beer, riding shotgun, two-tone Stacey Adams out the partially open window, grooving to River People, punk jazz, the percolating ostinato in Young and Fine. We were city boys running wild on Norman Rockwell's canvas, and those were our theme songs. Ain't no Friday night square dance band come close to these bass lines, Courtney screamed into air thick with rambling foliage. We call ourselves writers, but here we are learning how to do it in classrooms. Jocko tours the world with weather report, makes records, headlines. He got poems in his hands. All right. Another 1970 piece, well, in which 1970 plays a role. This is called "My Mother in the Afterlife," and um, I miss my mom a lot. I'm sitting here in my bedroom doing this with sweatpants on, which you can't see. And my mother is one of these people who was very kind of formidable and shy. She was also very middle class. So if she saw me even now with sweatpants on, she said, you really shouldn't be reading poems with sweatpants on, even if they can't see them. She's one of these people who thought she believed in revolution, but she thought you should look nice when you did it. So this is my mother in the afterlife. It is 1970 again. My mother is shaking her head at the sight of my clothing. She never abandoned her dream of a world without denim. Now there's no escaping her critique. You can't have coffee with God looking like that. She rolls her eyes at Abby Hoffman and at Bill, who owned the head shop near our house. Death has restored her mind, pardon me. Now she's taking curfew. My brother laughs behind a cloud. And this piece is, it has to do with travel. I don't know if you all are experiencing this, but when when I dream, then this unusual, challenging, often, at least for me, dispiriting time, I go places like there's no masks. I see my friends who seem even farther away than they are under normal circumstances. And lo and behold, I think about this stuff where it comes to you at night. And I got a phone call the other day from a friend of mine from Ohio, and we were in college together. We'd never been in an environment like Vermont, with the rural stuff, 2-lane highways, like the stuff that you saw in movies sometimes. One Sunday, we drove to Newport, Vermont, which is in the Northeast Kingdom, way up, I mean, close to Canada. And this poem, it's based upon that trip from, my gosh, this was like October 1975. Anyway, driving to Newport, and the epigraph is by Robert Frost. It reads, "Good fences make good neighbors." John Burns and I spent an autumn Sunday hugging the right lane of Interstate 14. We marveled at how Robert Frost's mending wall rolled across the hills like music, followed us to Canada like a runaway slave through Hardwick, Craftsbury, East Craftsbury, Craftsbury Common, Mill Village, West Glover. Foliage rattled, pompons cheering us on. I'm gonna stop there. That's my last piece. I want to tell you how thankful and honored I am to read with Marianne and Don. Don couldn't hear me. I was brought up Southern Baptist. I was like testifying here at home, and they used to kick me out of readings. Reuben, you're getting too crazy. But thank you so much.
Reuben, thank you so much. And we'll come back. Ask some questions. I have already a ton myself, so let's take some questions later when you come on back. But thank you for an excellent reading. And let's bring Marianne up to the Crowdcast stage here. Marianne, there you are. Okay.
Thank you for unmuting me.
Yeah, I am the great unmuter of this show, at least.
Rely on you when I can't rely on myself tonight.
Okay, all right. Marianne Slick is a professor of English and reading at Montgomery County College, where she is an associate editor for the Potomac Review. Her poems have appeared in numerous journals and publications. Her books are On the Side of the Window and, my French is very challenged, but I will say Poetry en plein air. And she'll help it out maybe when I'm done. She also edits the blog zine, The Song Is. It's a summer-only publication with her husband, who coordinates It Takes a Community, a local poetry group. So, with all of that, let's see a little bit of that Francophile type infused poetry from Marianne Slick.
Okay. Thank you, Henry. Thank you. And thank you, Don and Reuben. And, if it weren't for Reuben, I'd probably be somebody living with 17 cats and no husband. But because of Reuben and his poetry, here I am. And actually, I'm going to read from my book, Poetry en plein air. I'm going to read a poem about Warsaw, and it's actually from a prompt that Reuben gave us at It Takes a Community. It's called Flying into Warsaw in Another Life. In this life, the eastbound airplane simply hangs above the toy landscape. Cotton ball clouds, tiny nameless trees, the ocean of smooth, dark sheet without trash or fish or shipwrecks. Tomorrow morning, I land in Poland, my grandfather's country of trees with yellowed leaves and peeling bark, of cobblestones coated with cigarette smoke, of lumbering oxen and steam trains, of people who look like me, but swish and swallow vinegary consonants that burn going down an American's throat. In this life, I don't know that Grampy never lived in Poland. In his own village near Vilnius, his words, a foreign language, swirled like wood smoke in morning air. Okay. Now that poem explains why my name is really tricky to pronounce, but it's easy once you forget the Z. Okay, this is actually that was one of my new poems. I want to read a little older poem, and I wish I had something about 1970 in this book, but I don't, because everybody else is reading about that year. But instead, I will read two poems here. One is The Day Before the Bridge Closed, and a couple years ago, I had a dream that I was working at Boston's Long Island Hospital. And this is basically inspired by that dream. The day before the bridge closed. On Boston's Long Island, I walk over unmarked graves of residents, now lost in earth and rocks, hidden like they have always been at this hospital in their neighborhoods before the city gentrified. I stand at the island's edge, looking out to waves, empty space that smells of rot and seaweed. The ragged tide rolls in from Spain, leaving green sea glass on this beach. Seagulls hover over the prickly waves unraveling, over green shards worn smooth. Tomorrow, only ghosts will watch. Okay. The other poem I'd like to read also, and actually this poem, like The Day Before the Bridge Closed, this is also from On the Other Side of the Window. And I guess, Reuben taught us how to write jazz poetry, how to listen to jazz. And this is after Miles Davis's Amandla. Metallic trumpet rises like heat mirages over cracked asphalt. Early morning drums echo like the sidekick's fingers on his closed window. Eastern Oregon, a blank land before breakfast. Mountains are just haze. Rain clouds hug the coast, days away from this road trip. Keyboards mimic rain. It will not fall here. Miles' trumpet scorches white earth one cannot own. And I think my voice has one more poem in me, if that's okay, Henry. Okay. Think this is also a newer poem. This is a bit more dramatic. Probably a good one to end with. Another dream poem. The letter I never wrote you. Last night I dreamed we were never really friends. Your spicy cologne and cigarettes, the smell of antibacterial soap kept me at a distance. I'd never see what you wrote in fountain pen on yellow paper. I'd never sit next to you, never eat your Tulsa trail mix, never get drunk with you on spiked egg creams at your house, never invite you to my room, never even ride in your car, the one you would soon total going home to Durant, Oklahoma. This time you offered to teach me to drive stick shift. Laughing, using your accent to charm me, you would even offer a ride out of this college town, where I am a fat moth pinned under glass, in this butterfly museum, where I choke on small print, and fast food, where I'm alone. But this time I knew you. I knew all that would happen. I said no. Okay, thanks so much.
You're muted, Henry.
Yeah.
And I was the mute one. Okay. To our audience, all I can
Don't
say
self-efface.
is here are the poets. Let's you can use that emoji thinger down there and just have a little bit of virtual applause here for an outstanding job by everybody there. And we don't have any questions yet in the Ask a Question bin, so I'll just sort of get it started. And I have a question for Dawn, and that is, Dawn, you mentioned the Tree of Life, and you address a specific national crises, these things that happen. Whenever they happen, how much time do you need to be distant from those things before you can begin to write about them and digest them? What does it take?
Well, when you go to write about a topical issue, when I do, like, I have to be able to deal with just a piece of it. If I try to deal with the whole thing, which is what I really is my natural bent, and I think everyone's, especially when something just happened, I mean, you just can't capture that, the big picture. You have to choose a detail. What I did with the Tree of Life, then I sent 2 poems immediately to Vox Populi Sphere, which is an online, Michael Sims online poetry site, poems that I already had. I sent him Discovery, the title poem from this book, and I sent him a poem called Passover Prayer, which the first time I read it, like, all the people around me, like, moved away because they were afraid I was going to get struck by lightning. The poem that I read to you, Unveiling, it's a Jewish tradition, really, that the gravestone is placed, long after the person's buried. It takes time to make it, and it's covered. And at 11 months, there's a ceremony. And after I went to that ceremony, I sat down and wrote that poem.
Right. So yeah, it's funny how these things will happen, but then you need some time to and sometimes I find it like a triggering thing. Some aspect of it will hit you, days later, maybe sometime, maybe longer. Reuben, Tell us about 1970. I think that's something we could all speak to in a way. For me, it was a very sad year. Tell us about what your experience was in 1970.
Wonder if my therapist is listening. Well, it was. I mean, personally, for me, it was the beginning of a shift from. Well, I mean, I was young, but still, I felt more keenly the stuff that was in the air. I mean, not just the music, but clothing. It was kind of the beginning of a rift between myself and my parents because, you know, I used to be, people laugh when I tell them this, I used to be a real clothes horse, and suddenly I started going to people from DC, remember, like Sunny Surplus. And my
Yeah.
parents said, well, go, okay, it's time to get school clothes. So I came home with like an army jacket, a navy pea coat, a couple denim shirts, and two pairs of jeans. And my mother said, "Where are your clothes?" I said, "No, these are my school clothes." And but it was part of that um, interest in the counterculture. Um, Hendrix was someone I saw and was introduced to in the fifth grade, so I
Mhm.
knew about him, and he was. I was always looking for black men who well, like in my family, I had my father, my brother, but people who were not afraid to express themselves in a broad way. Like, I mean, Hendrix, of course, was visceral, but he wrote these beautiful ballads. And, for me to hear people say, like, a brother use a line like 11 moons played across the rainbows over me and you, I think, this is my man. So that politically, I grew up in a house, my parents would talk about politics all the time. So that I think the charge in the air was hit me even as I was going into 10th grade. But still, it was something was going on, and I wasn't really the same after like 69, 70. I used to sneak, and I told my parents before they died, so I don't have to feel too guilty about telling you this story. But I'd say, "Oh, I'm going to the library after school." But I had a friend who joined the Panthers, and Panther headquarters was on U Street here, and I would go because he wanted to know what I was reading. They used to call me Bookworm in our neighborhood, and I'd go and they'd feed me, sandwich or whatever. So, "Okay, Bookworm, what are you reading?" And so I would talk to him. So I was um, as immersed as someone that age could be, and I think it hasn't left me. And I guess with that, well, like with Don, one day something comes to you and says, "Well, try to put this into some context," and so that's my answer.
Yeah. It was a very fascinating time. Did you ever see Hendrix live?
Oh, three times, yeah, yeah. My father, first time was 68 at Meriwether Post Pavilion, and my father, bless his heart, drove me. My father couldn't stand that music, but it's one of the sweetest things he did. He drove me, and he sat out there. There was like that little plaza area where the food concessions were. He sat out there on like a picnic table while I had a seat. I offered to buy him a seat because I had a part-time job, but no. And then 1969 and 1970 at the old Baltimore Civic Center. So yeah,
Mm,
three times. And
mm.
working at a university, you tell students in their 20s that you saw Hendrix, and they think, "Oh, this dude could be like Methuselah." I'm ancient to them, but it gives a nerdy dude some cool, which I'd never had, or at least a passing taste of it.
Yeah, I saw Hendrix in that '68 tour, and
Hmm.
I'll never forget it. I saw it in New York, but it was I'll never
Mm-hmm.
never forget it. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Somebody says, "Wow." Marianne, you had a couple of poems about dreams. Tell me, how do you? They're so interesting and intriguing when they happen, and then for the few seconds after you wake up, they're just wonderful, and you say, I want to write," and then they disappear, and they never. They have. So I can say I have never written about a dream honestly because I can't remember the things. Tell us about your poetry of dreams.
Well, I wish I could say that I keep a dream journal, but I don't. But, sometimes I get dreams that really, really, really affect me, like that poem I ended with. That was a dream that, really shook me because, back when I was at Purdue, my first year there, I became friendly with a guy, and it was wonderful. It was awful. Oh my God. And that I actually said, no, I know who you are. I don't want to have anything to do with you. I'm going to associate with other people. Probably, more sane and sober, and I'd probably be teaching at a 4-year school in Arkansas now.
Wow, dreams are rascally, but the weirdest thing is the way they leave you so quickly, and I always regret it. I always think because it's almost like a wisdom that they have that I didn't get, and I wish I could. All right, guys, I think I want to thank you all again. Great reading, and
thank you for arranging this.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming by, and thanks for all the musical references. Oh, Jimi Hendrix, Electric Ladyland. I know what that is in the Village. Oh man, that is wonderful stuff. And Dawn, Discovery, folks out there, you can hit the donate and purchase poets book button and purchase all of the marvelous work from these great poets. And I think with that, I will let them go. So thank you, Marianne. I will bring you down, and Reuben, I will take you out. And so long, Don. And I'm gonna get everybody's mic covered. And with that, I can go into my finishing closing. I hope you have enjoyed this evening's readers as much as I have. And I hope that you will extend your enjoyment to purchasing the books and letting others know about this series. Our next WordWorks program is going to be on Monday, August 24 at 7 p.m., which I mentioned before, which is going to be a night of poetry and translation, which is rescheduled from our original program, which went down in flames during a thunderstorm and some technical gaffes that we had with our software and software vendor. So come back on Monday, August 24th, and good night and stay safe.